This is Bishop Tavis Grant, the Executive Director of the Shiloh Institute. This is a very important presentation we are providing to you, and we want to thank you for being a part of this incredible time of enlightenment, engagement, and education. It's called Building Tomorrow Lessons from the Election. This past week was a life changing historic moment in democracy here domestically and around the world. Foreign governments have responded to this historic election. We here at the Shiloh Institute, our our mission is to develop global ethical leaders, and in this ethos of transformation and the attempt to become better than we've ever been, one of the most important things we can do is become an informed people. And an informed people, as you know, are an empowered people. So while we are sharing on all of these various platforms, we want you to share, like, and comment and use the hashtag that will be made available to you on all of these platforms this evening. We have a plethora of engaging individuals from various backgrounds who are going to share perspectives and going to share information from their vantage point. We know that this particular election was so historic that it will impact the next generation that is just waiting to see how we're going to prepare them for tomorrow. So, on behalf of Christina King, our president and founder of the Shiloh Institute, I want to thank you for this time of engagement. There'll be opportunities for you to, in the chat area, to pose questions that we will answer and respond to. And at the close of this encounter, there will be an opportunity afforded to you to join our alliance and become an advocate for peace all over the world. For we truly believe we'd rather have peace on earth rather than just a piece of the earth. We have with us now an incredible leader in her own right, Shar Goolsberry, who is a community activist, a campaign coordinator for Black Voices Matter. Within 1 week of Vice President Kamala Harris's announcement for a run for president, Shar mobilized a volunteer base of over 2,800 volunteers who knocked on doors in Metro Detroit, and she hosted over 18 events in her home for the Black Women for Harris. This is an incredible leader, and we welcome her to our platform. Shar, this is a global moment for us. It is not just in Detroit or Chicago, Los Angeles, Atlanta, or Detroit. This has affected the entire globe. 1 week later, tell us how you feel, what you see, and what are some of the next steps.
So first, I just want to just say that we mobilized a team of people. We knocked 2,800 doors in the city of Highland Park, Michigan, which sits inside of Detroit, Michigan. It's an underserved uh, community that has very low voter turnout. So they were targeted specifically for that reason. And I've been working with Black Voters Matter for several years now, and it was through that organization that we mobilized a team to get that work done. So to your question, 7 days later, right? So 7 days after she announced that she was running, I mobilized a group of 28 women in my home, and we decided that we would stand with her. And 7 days later, after the loss, we are meeting in my home again tonight. I'm upstairs, and there's about 22 women downstairs that are meetings as we decide, how we're going to move forward in this new government that's coming in January. Let me start by saying I stood with Joteka Edie and the women of Win with Black Women in the very beginning when they decided that Vice President Harris, they wanted a Black woman on the ticket, right? And they stood with her and they supported her, and she was chosen to be on the ticket. So I've been a Harris supporter for a long time, followed her career through California as prosecutor and AG, and then, of course, as vice president. So, where are we now? Black women are in a whole bunch of places. Some of us were hurt, we're devastated, we're feeling betrayed, we're scared for our children, our families. We know what damage this is going to do, not just to democracy here in this country, but to democracies all over the world. And so we don't really, being completely honest, we don't really know what our next steps are. But what we do know is that we have to be organized and mobile and ready to be activated when the time comes. So there's still a lot going on. We're still trying to digest what's there, but those are the feelings, fear, betrayal, all of those things are showing up for us. But in true Black woman style, we have to feel it. We have to rise. We have to resist. And then we have to repeat.
Shar, Michigan, in and of itself,
Mm-hmm.
many people don't know, in 1988, Jesse Jackson won Michigan
Mm-hmm.
because Republicans switched over because of the way the caucuses were designed. Jesse Jackson won Michigan because Republicans voted in the Democratic caucus to give him the state. It has always had a precarious position, a populist position in our American politics. Talk, because again, I've heard from Arab leaders and Arab organizers who are uh, at a point of disgust and dismay, equally so, seeing that the new Secretary of State will be Marco Rubio from Florida. The new ambassador will be Mike Huckabee. These are the ultra right of the Republican Party. So we know what their script and their digest and mission will be. And then the precariousness, Wayne County has more than enough votes in any election that African Americans can literally carry the state from Detroit to Lansing without registering another vote.
That's true.
And the misogyny and the sense that a woman, particularly a Black woman, uh, could not be president, and the usage of two different playbooks. Quite honestly, Vice President Harris wasn't able to take a test from the same book.
Mm-hmm. That's
He'd
right.
been measured by the same calculus. It would have been outrageous. And yet, the poise and the commitment that she sustained with the Black woman voting bloc. Talk about that, because that, from a political sense, that disappointment has to be it has to be addressed. It cannot be dismissive as if it is something that will go away or will evaporate. Um, this election has some very dire political consequences. I'm not so sure that as a community we understand the impact of reproductive rights. I'm not so sure we understand the impact that it will have on the delivery of health care, but you do. You know it.
Mm-hmm.
As an organizer and leader, talk about that, because I think that gives us the segue to next steps.
Well, you're right about you touched on quite a few things. Let me just say this. There was a time when Detroit urban centers delivered states, and Detroit did not deliver Michigan to Vice President Harris. And if you want to call it blame, there's enough of it to go around. But I will say this: Black women showed up. If you look at the numbers, bear that out. Black women overwhelmingly showed up and they voted for Harris. And frankly, Black men did too. But the Black men votes that Trump was able to siphon off were just enough. Let's talk about white women. White women did not vote for womanhood. They voted for their whiteness and their privilege and the security of their own children. We thought we had an ally in white women, and that simply was not the case, because the numbers bear that out as well, that white women voted for Trump. So they voted against their own best interest, and they voted for Trump. If you look in the Arab community, Arab women tend to align themselves with who they see as head of household. Okay. That's how they tend to vote. And then there was a fracture or a fissure, if you will, that happened over in the Arab American community, because Dearborn and Hamtramck has one of the biggest Arab communities in the country. There was a split over there in that community, mostly around what's going on in the Middle East, and that allowed a siphoning off of votes. But overwhelmingly, at the end of the day, Bishop, Detroit didn't show up in the numbers that it needed to show up in to carry the state. It's just that simple.
There's been a consistent downturn in counties like Wayne County. And given the migration of African Americans outside of urban Detroit, Highland and other suburbs still have that contingency of Black voters. You include unions, the big three. The big three were complicit in this, given the commitment and the blood, sweat, and tears of Black auto worker union members, who are the core constituency of unions today, not just automotive unions, but unions as a whole. If you took the Black union worker out of the core of unions, unions would collapse in 3 years, because unions aren't growing. Wages aren't growing. Manufacturing is not growing as it did before. And so you have an outside foreign company now poised to purchase Inland Steel, for example. That is going to be catastrophic for the Rust Belt. But to see your point about the Black vote in and of itself could have flipped Michigan with no problem. But you compound that with the Black union worker who was betrayed by the very union that it funds, because it refused to stand for the real working class. This idea that this was a working class coalition is a farce. It is demeaning to working class people who in and of themselves are going to be the first to take a hit economically from this new economy that they're about to implement in the name of democracy.
I'm gonna say something that some people might think is pretty controversial, but you get what you get from Shar. Union members, I am a union member, by the way, in my day job. Union members voted against their own best interests to serve their, how should I say this? Their supremacy status, I'll call it. A lot of the decisions and a lot of the votes that were made, particularly white women, were made because people are trying to maintain their status and their whiteness in this country. This man who's coming in, if you read Project 2025 just a little bit, his whole mission is to dismantle unions. Why would you vote against something that is going to directly impact your livelihood? All of that overtime that you're getting, what they're trying to do is turn it into a work month instead of a work week. Why would you vote against that? There's something in you that allows you to vote against your own obvious self-interest, and it's something else. And I think it's sourced from a supremacy conversation, a positional conversation, and that's how a lot of them voted. Our current president saved the Teamsters pension. He saved their pension, but the Teamsters would not even endorse the candidates that saved their pension. What does that say, Bishop? It's something else driving the conversation.
It is. And I think, again, this so-called autopsy should start first with Michigan, because in the 7 swing states that Vice President Harris did not win, the one that should have been the first one to win was Michigan, because Michigan has all of the ingredients to have created a domino effect in the nation, from Michigan to Wisconsin to Ohio to Pennsylvania. But no state has the makeup in the North. To some extent, Illinois is an anathema. And what I mean by that is, Illinois, though it is a blue state, it does not have the ingredients that Michigan has statewide. There's statewide. When you look at the university college network in the state of Michigan, you add that to it. You add to the state of Michigan. You add the Black populace. You have a legacy African-American middle class in the state of Michigan.
Absolutely.
The children of that middle class in the state of Michigan who had their education funded through manufacturing and union jobs. So you have no other state in those swing states that should have been the first win. Like at poll closing, it should have shocked the world. Michigan goes to Kamala Harris.
Michigan, I will tell you this, though. Detroit is not like other urban centers are the same way as it relates to voter apathy and lack of voter participation. And Detroit and other urban centers in Michigan are really no different. I said to someone just recently, I think one of the challenges that the White House has in general, particularly the Democratic Party, is there's no direct through line or direct communication to urban centers from the White House. For example, the Biden-Harris administration did a great deal for Black people. However, when you ask a Black person, what did they do? They say they don't know, or they did nothing. And so there's not been a conversation from the White House to Mack and Bewick, okay, which is the Lower East Side of Detroit, right? There's not been a conversation. Black people should be able to articulate exactly what the party has done for them. They're unable to articulate that. They do not know, which allows an opening for other people to come in and say stuff like, well, what do you have to lose? Right? So there has to be a direct line of communication to the African-American community about the things that are being done. So when you come in kind of what they see as the last minute, now remember, this woman only had 107 days to run a campaign. 107 days. And because people don't understand basic civics, that the vice president serves at the pleasure of the president, that it is not her administration, it is his administration. People ask, what did she do? She did what she was assigned to do, no more, no less.
Yes.
People don't understand civics. But going back to the voter apathy, people are so resigned and people are such victims. They would rather be a victim of the situation rather than engage in the situation and change the situation. So I will say I was very disappointed in Michigan. You know, we have a female governor here.
Yes. Yes.
And Gretchen has done, Governor Whitmer, I should say, has done an amazing job. We did get a win in the U.S. Senate with Alyssa Slotkin. We did get a win, 2 wins, Michigan Supreme Court with Harris Bolden and the other young lady, Kim. I can't call her last name right now, but we did get some wins in Michigan. Okay, but we should have done much better. But we had 100 days. We had 100 days to do it. What do you say, Dr. King? I see.
Yeah, can I jump in because you shouldn't have done better. You know, I'm from Philadelphia, and we put in, you know, our effort. I'm a pediatrician, but you know, and have done a lot with community. I was a razzle dazzle or, you know, push and shove community activist back on the West Coast. You know, when Kamala Harris was on the West Coast a little bit and was on the East Coast. You know, but now, you know, 30 years in Philadelphia, Philadelphia didn't deliver Pennsylvania. Atlanta didn't deliver Georgia. Minneapolis didn't deliver Wisconsin. Nevada couldn't, you know, the Latinos in Nevada didn't deliver. So, you know, this is a bigger, there was not voter apathy. The people who voted for Trump did it on purpose.
Yeah.
They were not confused. Voting is about perception, and that there really is a breakdown in I'm a lifelong Democrat and will continue to be a lifelong Democrat, win or lose. And I'm prepared to lose the next election because I don't think we Democrats or color folks are learning the lesson of perception.
Yeah.
Dr. King, Shaw talked about the disappointment. You mentioned the apathy, and I think you make a very appropriate assessment that the voter who voted for Project 2025 was not an apathetic voter.
That's right.
This election, when you look at how they took the swing states, is by less than 2%. The numbers look like 175,000 when you put them all together. But it is massive in terms of the redness of it. And yet in the urban centers, the messaging and the messengers both did not engage to the extent that there was this sense of electricity and urgency and a sense of now. Talk about it, because again, Pennsylvania is one of those Rust Belt states, manufacturing, that has its own unique nuances, but in and of itself, the numbers just don't make sense. They voted, the vote was more, the count was more, both popular, etc. But the actual numbers of potential and possibility, I think, are greater in causing this angst and sense of alarm, that's in the electorate, that it happened to this extent.
Right. But this is if we want to understand how a minority of opinion can generate perception and intimidate a majority of brown people into siding with the minority group, which by being perceived as powerful, we American Negroes and Puerto Ricans, Reading, Pennsylvania, which is more than half Puerto Rican, just north of Philadelphia, the Puerto Rican community, within a week of when the Trump rally insulted them directly, almost exactly directly, because they were literally, an hour away from Madison Square Garden. That group of Puerto Ricans who heard that insult voted for Trump 54% or something. So that group, in spite of the insult, because the perception is who's going to be where's the power?
Yes.
And if we want to understand how we might have this this stuff rolled for the next, it could be another generation. Why don't we look at Africa? Right. So we got rolled like the way Africa gets rolled, in my opinion, which is that Africa still votes with Europe, even though Africa has 1 billion people, and 1 billion brown people, but yet they will tend to choose a European, corporation or anything else.
You present a very interesting, opportunity. In 1960, when John F. Kennedy ran, he ran at a time of the conversion of the African American voter being a Lincoln Republican, shifting to vote for a Democrat. And it shocked the world that he was able to do it. Images of him in Appalachia and in some of the poorest urban centers and African American leaders embracing him, he yet only won by less than 2% of the vote. Giving that, you said earlier you would be willing to lose again. I sense, even from Shar and her meeting tonight, that there is perhaps this very interesting opportunity, because we will not get the George Floyd criminal justice bill now. We will not get the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. When you see what is happening in corporate America, they're literally wiping out DEI. They're going after all of the African American gains in academia and across the gambit of our American existence. Does this not present to us, Dr. King, an opportunity rather than a crisis to then therefore do what is probably long overdue? When Shar talks about the ability to pull these women together and knock on 2,800 doors, and then not be a direct line, the reason why unions felt comfortable abandoning their base is they now sense that they have, whether it's real or not, a direct line. And it's based upon their ability to leverage power, influence, and money. We have not taken that liberty, if I could use that word.
That's right. We play the long game better than they do. But we have to notice that they played the long game better than we did. Trump has been running for office since the 70s, or contemplating it. The Supreme, taking over the Supreme Court. I was fighting that at Stanford. I was fighting, DEI to try to get great books in. This was in the early 80s. So 80s, 90s, the noughts, 2010s, 30, 40 years they've been playing to roll the gains of the civil rights movement and the gains of the women's right, and to roll these movements back. It's taken them 25 active years to get to this point where they can roll us for one election. And that's in spite of us controlling. The problem is we have forgotten how to play coalition politics. Coalition politics is not about it's not about getting the general numbers. It's about groups of groups, and the groups come as a unified group. And what Trump was able to do was peel off.
That's right.
Coalitions.
I agree with that 100%. And guys, I have to jump off the call, but I will say this. One of the lessons that I learned in this election is that be careful of who you align yourself with and call them an ally. That is the greatest lesson that I learned as a woman, because I honestly thought that womanhood would trump, if you will,
Oh boy.
some of this uh, behavior. And I thought that women would vote for themselves, and they didn't. They voted for their privilege. White women voted for their privilege. So when you talk about the lesson that I learned is that everybody that you think is an ally is not an ally. I've got a room full of women downstairs, and 2 white women showed up. And you know what I said to them? I said, now listen, ladies, if you wanted them tender-hearted white girls, this is not the place for you to be. Because that's not the conversation that we're having tonight. We're talking about.
Shar, I want you to come back.
Okay.
And I want you to come back, and I want to address Dr. King in our next installment. I want us to address the importance of alliance building.
Absolutely.
Because you make a tremendous. I spent 3 weeks in the state of Wisconsin during Governor Walker's term, fighting for teachers when they went on strike, a statewide strike in Wisconsin. 35% of them voted for the governor that was about to shut down, what wanted to shut down their union and take them out of schools.
And so we have to ask ourselves,
of alliance and privilege is
yes,
something we need to confront now.
Yes. They're going to always align with their privilege and their children's privilege. Always. That is the singular lesson. If I had to just pick one lesson that I walked away with, that was it. I won't be fooled again. I absolutely won't be fooled again. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure being with you. I have the ladies downstairs, and I will leave the studio now, but it's been great. I'd love to come back and talk with you again, Bishop. It was a pleasure meeting you, Dr. King.
You too, Ms. Goldsmith. Yeah, tell your sisters down there that we in Philly feel your pain. We got rolled just like you did, and we watched the same groups peel away from us.
Yes.
And run towards what they thought was more powerful, when of course women are the majority.
Women are the majority, but when you look at the electorate, 30-something, the electorate, white men, white women, a little over 70% in this country, they overwhelmingly voted for Trump. We couldn't beat the numbers. This is the first time he has ever won the popular vote since George W., right? He won the popular vote. So it's something to be said for that. Bishop, I would love for us to get together.
We're going to come back together.
We can we can have a whole room full of women, like sitting in the background, and we can do like a whole thing, because I think you'll get some very interesting perspectives out of Detroit and the work that we did here. But we are super excited to get to work again. We're going to rest for a second, then we're going to rise, then we're going to resist, and then we're going to repeat it.
Yep.
Over and over again.
Never give up.
We will not give up. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good night.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks.
Dr. King, let's talk a moment about alliance and privilege, because when you talk about what happened in Nevada, there's this commonality of alliance, and I think that this election makes it juxtaposed to coalitions. Because in 24 hours after the election, we now have this new phraseology, the working class coalition, which I believe is a misnomer, because you had this movement from the right being funded by billionaires. Elon Musk was one of 3 billionaires that made $64 billion the morning after the election.
That's right.
That's a matter of fact. So that's not the working class. That is an unequitable distribution of wealth that now widens the gap between the haves and the have-nots. And yet, if you listen to mass media, this idea of the working class coalition, you mentioned your work in California. Elon Musk is facing both a state case and a federal case from the Department of Justice on civil rights violations of workers in his California factories.
Yep, Alameda, yeah.
And nobody said anything about it, right? It's like blink, 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 don't see, don't see. And what they have done is they've codified a brand and a means of financing that brand. And I think you are alluding to something as it relates to us being perhaps culturally too emotional and feeling driven about this, versus when there is an alliance, we have a common denominator that we will not compromise. Right? I mean, when
Yes.
you look at the cultivation of
Yes.
BRICS with South Africa, with North Korea, with Russia, with Venezuela, they are now creating a counter to NATO, right? So there is this globalization of alliance that we have one common denominator, not 10. We do not, in fact, agree on 10 things. But this one thing we do agree on, we will not compromise on that. And we will hang our alliance on that for ultimate victory. Speak to that, because I think that's probably where we are.
Yeah, so I'm a big now, like again I've worked with as a scientist, as a physician, with National Institute of Health. I've worked with I was in the National Service Corps. I'm a big believer in the power of the federal government as a bureaucracy. I think that federal employees are amazing people. They're amazing workers. I've never been treated with anything but professionalism by the federal government. Even as the IRS is taking my taxes, they always do it with friendly. When the TSA is searching me, they do it politely. When I'm hearing about a hurricane, the oceanic, what I'm saying is that we have this amazing, powerful thing. The U.S. military is this amazing, powerful professional force. But here's the recipe for how you can destroy and take over a country with almost no ideas. If you just get everyone to believe that we're each individuals, instead of we're groups of we're families, we're communities, we're tribes. If you get us each to think we're each individuals, then what happens is, in our minds, the most powerful individual is the one you should align with. That's what gangsters convince the rest of the gang to believe, that somehow the capo is more powerful, and so you shouldn't cross him.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is kind of gangster politics, and the thing about a gangster is that sense of personal power based on force. Once you get us to believe that we're individual and we're not collectively powerful, but we're individuals making choices. And also we can make whatever choices we want. We have no, you separate ourselves as individuals from our history. So we don't have any obligation to our legacy, our community, our family, our belief systems. We can make up our own minds in every moment. Then all you need to do is control the channels that influence us moment by moment. Maybe spend $44 billion to buy Twitter and ruin it. Guess what? Elon Musk doesn't need it for the money. He needs the channel. And
I think you're
one by one, because the difference between Twitter and Walter Cronkite was that Twitter only whispers in my ear. It's not everybody sitting in the room listening together like the pastor preaching. When we're sitting in the congregation listening to you preaching, we're looking at each other like, oh yeah, amen. I hear we have some confirmation from the congregation. But once you get to whisper one by one in everyone's ear individually, that's how the devil did Jesus. He tried to whisper in his ear. The difference is Jesus said, let me go back. I'm
Well,
not going to stay out here in
I
the
think when
wilderness
you
with
look
you.
at how this was communicated and the messengers and the multifaceted use of messaging from social media,
Yeah, Twitch. I'm
uh,
not on Twitch.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the young people's.
but
But
you
Trump
look
is on
at
Twitch.
you look at the Washington Post losing over 200,000 subscribers
Yeah.
because they and Bezos and others made a calculated decision, which now we know why.
Yeah.
You know why? At that time, we were thinking, had the general public thinking, oh, it must be. No, this was a part of a plan. This was not like a knee jerk decision.
And boy, it's, Elon Musk, what did he spend 110, 120 million
They made
dollars
64 billion.
for right. I don't know. I don't know any kind of investment opportunity that has that lets you get that many zeros payback. Next time he should spend $250 million. Why not spend a whole billion? He could probably take over the whole planet with $1 billion.
Trump stock is soaring on Wall Street.
Through social. Yep.
Yeah, I'd like
So,
you to talk about the potential next steps, because whether it be the development, not necessarily not necessarily a third party, but whether it be a new alliance, political alliance, because in and of ourselves, numerically, when you look at the migration, for example, the reason why these states have such leverage is the migration. And so we have we have certain parts where African Americans and people of color migrate, but they don't migrate to Montana, Utah, etc. And so we're not able to impact the electorate that way. The systematic aspect, if you look at when you talked earlier about peeling off, so if you peel off votes in Macon, College Park, you peel off a certain percentage and you add that percentage up, it's like snow flurries that become a snowstorm.
right.
And
And,
it's so beautiful in the beginning. Oh my gosh. Let's build a snowman until
Trump
there's a
played
snow
tribal medicine.
mountain
He
sitting in
played
front of
tribal
your house,
politics.
right? So talk about the potential and the power for alliance building this time around, because I think we have an uninformed electorate in Gen Zers that are sensing, as Shar said, they got trumped not by happenstance, but by design. They played into the theater. They became a sideshow at the circus, and they were really the main attraction.
Right.
And without alliance building now, that goes beyond the traditional. You and I have done this work for many, many years, and we know what is happening inside the DNC right now, which is absolutely bloodletting. It is throats being cut, wrists being cut, some other things are being cut all at the same time, right? Which is not good for the base. Because no matter how many people, in many of these areas, for example, Dr. King, you had people that weren't even from the area doing campaign work, had no relationship, had resources, but did not have relationships.
No,
so
you know,
resources were underutilized because I can't pick up the phone and call William King and say, William King, because I don't know you.
There's no, so I know, I'm pretty sure this is true in Detroit. I know it was true in Philly. Philly is a Democratic machine town, right? You can't, it's 80%, 90%, 70% registration, 80, 90%. And the thing is, everybody that is a Democrat votes Democrat, and that's that. But when it comes to the local politics, but the national machine what has happened is that the Democratic Party used to be a machine of machines.
Yes.
So the way that, because if you look at the election map of the United States, it is a giant red sea from sea to
Yes.
shining
Yes.
sea.
Yes. Yes.
It's red. Every 67 counties in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, and five to seven are blue. So, we have, the Philadelphia and the four collar counties that everybody's was talking about on the news for a million days. We have Allegheny County where Pittsburgh is. We have Lehigh County where Reading is, and we have another Latino and Black, up in Scranton. So there's only these five or seven dots among a sea of 100% red. Still, the United States is. I went to Montana. I saw two Black people, my wife and I, and when we nodded, "Hey, what's up?" We did our "what's up" nod, like we're prone to do, us Negroes that have been around. I like to use the word
Yeah.
in the right era.
What's up?
Us Negroes that have been around, the world, we do the "Hey, what's up?" Just saying, "Hey, in case you want to identify, I am part of your tribe. I just wanted to let you know I am. I know you. I see you. I am you." But the brother there, when I did the "what's up" nod, he looked at me and he said, "Please," and what he was saying with his eyes was, "Please don't do that to me.
Yeah.
I cannot identify with you. I have to protect myself. I am not that being affiliating with my tribe.
I am not one of them.
Affiliating with my tribe, the black people, is not beneficial to me right now, brother. So I see you, but I do not. Please don't let the rest of these people around me see that me and you think of each other as one tribe." So the problem is, of course, is we are one tribe. That tribe was defined by our ancestors' enslavement and the legacy of that. So as light as I may become, the Negro is not defined by that. It's not defined by my personal identification. It should be defined by my legacy and my history. And the problem is, if you separate us all from our legacy and history, we get to make choices as consumers.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to consume whatever message seems like it's appealing. And that's usually based on money or power. That's not helpful. So the machine of machines. My grandfather was a Detroit congressman. And because of that, I'm not interested in politics, because it's an on the ground thing. And you deliver block by block, person by person, and you deliver all of them. Everybody in your neighborhood, everybody in your district votes for you. That's how you're supposed to deliver that district. You cultivate them all 4 years, and then when you need them, they come out and vote, because you've been helping them all 4 years, and then they know you. They know you're the one who helped them, and so when you ask them to come and keep you there, they come back and keep you there. The Democratic Party has totally forgotten that. They think they're going to talk. They're going to whisper in our ears one by one. That message, the Democrats are about love and happiness. You can't whisper that to people and make them change their minds with love and happiness. What that is about, we have to build our coalitions. The thing is that group of Philadelphians, that group of Atlantans, that group of Manhattanites, or the Bronx, the Boogie Bronx, Black folks and Latinos, they're not being served as a group. And so when then you talk to them 4 years later, they don't see themselves as a group, because you didn't come and deal with them as a group. So Biden did not come and talk to Philadelphia. He came to Philadelphia many times, but he didn't talk to the machine of Philadelphia. Sherelle Parker, our Black woman mayor. We have a white governor who is, Bob Casey, our state senator, the white guy. But when you have to come and talk to us one by one.
And it's just alarming, the Casey race and the results.
But it was the same thing, is that once the tribe, if white people are 70% of America, If they vote as a block, we lose
And
any
I think that's one of the most alarming
all national races. So
developments of that.
if the white population votes as a block, we lose all national elections. We cannot win any national election ever again. So we won't become a majority for what, another 10 years? I mean, all the colored people. So we're saying the black,
But yet we will still have to participate in the process, and I think that is what.
But the key is that but see, on the local scene, we are affiliated. So the black community and the Latino community are affiliated. The black community and the Puerto Rican community are affiliated. The black community and the African American community and the African community in Philadelphia do feel some affinity. Even the black community and the gayborhood, our gay community. But now that community is not affiliated by identity, though. It's affiliated by the fact that, there's some black, the black politicians, they know the black gay community members to connect to the rest of the gay community. They know the black pastors to connect to the rest of the black religious community. They know the black union members to connect. It has to be done through that coalition building, city by city, locality by locality. Those coalitions have to be built. Detroit and Flint and Lansing and have to all be connected. Those urban.
Dr. King, I want to thank you because I think that you have laid a segue for us in our part 2 that we'll do on this, because the imperative of coalition building, of developing alliances, has to be a part of the formula of us maintaining and sustaining our freedoms and our liberties, but realizing the impact that we have a responsibility, not just for our own self-existence, for the opportunity of this experiment called democracy. When you look at south of us, they have a woman president in Mexico. And with all of the challenges they have, they were able to break a number of cultural barriers that just 10 years ago that wouldn't have been possible. But today in this hemisphere, there is a woman president in this hemisphere. And it's very unfortunate that the United States is lagging, but there are a number of factors, and we want to uncover and pull those layers back, as you talked about earlier in our presentation. Those of you who are watching, I want to thank you for your time and your attention. I hope that you will share this on your networks, on your various platforms, like, share, and comment. You can see at the bottom of the screen whether it's Instagram or X or YouTube, and subscribe to that channel. You can go to www.shilohnow.com and become one of our advocates, or even join our alliance as we are spreading peace all over the world. And as we have shared with you today, and our next one is going to be even more engaging than this one, we just wanted to break the ice and begin the conversation. We believe conversation leads to conversion. And the more we talk to one another, and the more we talk about what each of us believe in, it is a very possible for us to do more together than we could ever achieve apart. And so I want to thank our guests, Shar Goolsbee and Dr. William King from Philadelphia. I want you to, again, to go one of those platforms on Instagram or X or Facebook or YouTube and subscribe to that channel. And make sure you share your information with us, that as we present this content to you, I just know that this is more than a crisis. It is an opportunity. And the opportunity that will be presented to us will be able and afford us the opportunity to do something that has never been done, to achieve something that has never been seen, and to go to a place where we've never been. And it is always within our means to be better next time than we are this time. And that's why we can never give up. Use the hashtag when you engage with this content, hashtag never give up, because Dr. King and I will tell you it is the fighter who gets back up who
That's
wins
right.
in the end. And in the end, we're still going to win. Thank you so very much. And don't forget, give peace a chance. Bye bye.